The girl 24F of 26M been hooking up with is in a bad relationship with her married boss. I met Stacy at a bar for a one-night stand almost 2 months ago. We clicked and decided to keep in contact. We've been hooking up regularly since then and have become great friends. We are friends with benefits. I knew that she was seeing someone else, but she told me they were in a non-exclusive relationship like ours, so I didn't care. When we got drunk, she would tell me about how the other guy took her for granted many times, but I never pressed her about it. Last week, she slipped and told me the other guy was her boss and that he was ignoring her for his wife. This surprised me because Stacy is a funny, confident and level-headed person. I would have never guessed that she was stress of her boss. When I asked her about it the next day, she got angry, so I dropped it. 2 days ago, Stacy called me agitated and asked me to pick her up from a hotel. When we got back, she wanted to FCK. I asked her why she was so agitated, and she wouldn't answer. I tried pushing, but she stonewalled me. Yesterday, after we went to bed, she called her boss when she thought I was asleep and started begging him to take her back. She was sobbing. I haven't talked to her about it yet. Stacy is the most assertive and confident person I know, and seeing her in that state really affected me. I really want to help my friend, but I don't know how to do it. She blocked all my previous attempts to talk about it. She is a dear friend of mine and I want to help her. What do I do now? Redditor's reactions update after. Redditor 1, I picked her up from a hotel. When we got back she wanted to duck. Dude, you do realize when you picked her up from the hotel she was just with her boss ducking and was trying to get you to duck her right after. That's pretty nasty. Talk about sloppy seconds. Redditor 2, you're catching feelings. I don't think you understand how this works. You are 1-2 of couple of friends W benefits. There is no expectation of commitment. Redditor 3, she is the AP of her boss and he will certainly not leave his family for her. Guys like him are players and know how to blind and sweet talk women. What she needs to do is look for a new job and go no contact with her lover. It seems though she's in love with him and needs to find out the hard way herself. Not much you can do besides being there for her and lend a shoulder to cry on. Update: the girl 24F of 26M been hooking up with is in a bad relationship with her married boss. I pressed her about her relationship with her boss after my post. She blew up and told me she'd stop talking to me. She called me the next day and apologized. I invited her and she told me about her relationship with her boss. It's the same story you tend to hear in situations like these. It was her first proper job and her boss was super nice to her. They started meeting outside and he told her how his wife is a BTCH and won't look after him. She started sleeping with him and slowly fell in love. He loves Stacy but won't leave his wife. She started getting fed up with being his stress and asked him to leave his wife. He kicked her out and stopped talking to her. That's why she was begging him to take her back. I told her I won't be sleeping with her anymore. We spent that whole weekend in my apartment. We shut off our phones and every form of communication from the outside. We played video games, talked and cooked all day. We spoke about why she was that way with her boss and I managed to convince her to quit the job and break it off. There were a ton of missed calls and messages from her boss telling her how sorry he was for kicking her out and how worried he was. I was afraid that she would go back to being his stress when she went to office, but she held strong. She turned in her notice and resignation letter. Her boss begged her to stay. We found a job for her pretty quickly. She told me that he was begging her to stay every day. One day, he followed her to my apartment. We were effectively roommates by then. He started banging the door and got angry when he saw. He started screaming at Stacy for leaving him, but I stopped him and threatened to call the cops. He left. After that, Stacy was scared and moved in with me completely. On her last day at the job, he followed her back to my apartment. He started threatening me and telling me how he would destroy me if I didn't give Stacy to him. She told him that she would tell his wife about them if he ever came back. He begged her to come with him but left eventually. He started tailing and stalking Stacy after that. He kept calling and messaging her constantly. So, we found his wife. She was some rich socialite who did a lot of charity events. We found her at one of these events, took some pictures with her and sent them to him as a warning. He stopped after that and we haven't seen him for over a week. I hope we don't see him again. Stacy and I are roommates now. We haven't had time since the beginning of the whole ordeal. She's a great roommate and friend. She keeps thanking for helping her leave the toxic relationship. She also started going to therapy. I don't know what the future holds for us. Redditor's reactions story 2 after. Redditor 1, dude, you are something else. Redditor follow-up: I don't think I've ever called any story fake since I started posting here. But this one just doesn't sound real at all. Redditor 2: I'm calling bullshit on all of this. Redditor 3: I'm glad things are improving. If Stacy still has any proof of the affair, she should make copies and each of you keep it somewhere safe. As a former employer, you never know when he might try to pull something underhanded like finding and calling her current work to sabotage her job. You want to have whatever backup options protected in case they are ever needed. Op answer: yeah. We already have multiple backups of all their chats and pictures together. Redditor 4: Good luck with life, Mr. White Knight. Redditor follow up: I'm sure I'll be the first one to change a garden tool into a housewife. Story 2: Advice. Thank you for taking the time to read this in advance. I will try to shorten it as much as I can. I'm a 36 male and my soon-to-be ex-wife is 35. We met in high school and started dating 19 years ago. Yes, we were high school sweethearts. We moved in together shortly after she graduated from high school. We have no children and really didn't want any as we were young and struggling financially. I worked most of the time and she was in school. Everything seemed fine. I loved her very much. I proposed to her a few years later in New Orleans and she accepted. We never set a date, but within a couple of years we would marry and spend the rest of our lives together. During this time, we were renting a house and I was working overnight. She was about to finish her first degree. Seemed to be going good, but I noticed recently that she started getting a lot of texts on her phone. We had always had an open relationship, so I asked her. She said it was a cousin that I hadn't met. I knew all of her family. I didn't have any family to speak of. Thinking this was odd, I grabbed her phone while she was in the shower getting ready to have sex and was floored. "I love you baby" and "Sweet dreams baby" was all I could read before my heart sank. I confronted her when she stepped out. She didn't need everything. I was mad and left to go cool off. I came back an hour later and she was crying in the kitchen. She then came clean that it was a mutual friend from high school and that they were having an emotional affair, not physical. It lasted a couple of weeks. He was already married with children. She stopped it immediately and apologized and seemed remorseful. I missed a day of work as I cried for a couple of days. I was devastated. It took a few years to forgive her, but I finally did, and we were married in 2012. I was still working and now she was also after graduating. We moved into a new apartment, a fresh, new start. She decided to go back for another degree and worked at the same time. I was also in school and working. There seemed to be no more problems. At the end of 2019, she graduated and decided to become a travel technician, in which I would go along with her with our one house cat. I was also laid off at this time from a company I had been with for over 6 years. They went bankrupt. In January of this year we left for her first contract, Austin, Texas, 400 miles away. We sold, donated or gave away everything we had, as we were going to become monogamous to help pay down the student loan debt we had incurred over the years. Sold one of our vehicles, books, TV, couch, everything except a few boxes of keepsakes and our newer car. We packed up what we had, along with our cat, and I drove to Austin. It was an odd thing, to find a short-term place to stay with a pet. The company usually provides this as per the contract. We ended up at a cheap motel that accepted pets, no oven, no kitchen. It was difficult to say the least. It was a big adjustment for both of us. Then COVID hit and I ended up getting it. I was out for a week in bed, but recovered fine. I started drinking more then, as I missed my old way of life and having a hard time adjusting to our new situation. We were both drinking heavily one night and got into a fight. I said something that upset her and she told me she wished I would go and commit suicide as I held her hair from the toilet. Something changed then, but our anniversary was coming up and it seemed everything was fine. A couple of weeks later, the company canceled the contract due to COVID, so I drove us back home to stay with her mother. It took 3 weeks for her to find another contract in the middle of Arizona, 1,300 miles away. We packed up and I drove us there. It was wonderful, a 5-star villa with mountain views, housekeeping every week, fire pits, pools, spas, etc. It was much better than Austin and we felt good about it. She worked the day shift, while I went to school, as I was almost done with my degree. A few weeks pass, and she says she is going out with some new friends that she worked with. I went out and bought chips and wine for them to have a girls' night out. She came home later and said she had fun. The next week, she wanted another night out, so she went, but never texted me anything again. We had open communication of our whereabouts and what we are doing. She got home at 1 a.m., half drunk. I was disappointed to say the least, but didn't want to fight then. She had to be at work in 4 hours, so she went to bed. When she came home that evening from work, she sat down and said, "I'm leaving you, we married the wrong person." My heart sank yet again. I spent the next week pleading, begging and crying. She never told me anything else, but that she needed time to think, some space, and that one of us had to go. The next morning, I took our car to get new tires, new brakes and an oil change, then drove us to Phoenix so I could catch a plane ride home, to a place that no longer exists. We broke the lease to our apartment 1 month after renewing at $4,500 still owed. I cried the entire time flying. I had a duffel bag with some clothes and a 10-year-old laptop to my name. A friend picked me up at the airport and has let me stay with him until I get something better. I felt terrible that first week. I just knew I had did something or didn't do something that caused all this pain and sadness that I felt. I cried all day. There was no contact between us. I was alone for the first time in my adult life, with no degree, no job, no car, no house, nothing. I was paying bills one morning and we had the cell phone bill due, so I logged in to pay it. I had a few messages here and there, mostly from her, but she had over 1,000, mostly from the same number. I did a reverse lookup and social media search. That's when I knew she was having another affair. He was just like me in almost every way: eye and hair color, same age, same build, same hobbies, but I guess better. A week later, Hurricane Laura's eyewall hits a couple of miles from us. No power, no running water. We are on a pump well, no food except one case of MREs for 12 days. We couldn't even drive to get supplies, as there were so many trees blocked the roads. She didn't even call or text to see if I was alive or dead. She was coming to visit the following week. Her contract was extended till end of this year. She pulled up, still wearing her wedding ring. I took mine off the day I paid the cell phone bill. I had the alimony contract already written up along with the divorce papers. She signed the contract without much hesitation and had it notarized. I called her a few names and we fought for a good 20 minutes, then said nothing the rest of the visit. I told her goodbye and she left. Another week of no contact. She is back in Arizona now goes by. She calls me today to ask about bills, so we talked a little. She still beats around the bush, but won't hide it either. They still talk text 30 times a day. I say I pretty much know what is going on, and she just says yeah. No apologies, no remorse. She said she was with him tonight having dinner. She has now known him for about a month that I know of. They have slept together multiple times now and I take my STD/HIV test tomorrow. It was in the alimony contract. She never disputed it. She says she is still confused, but knows for certain that she wants a divorce from me. So, that's where I'm at now, the last 2 decades gone from me. My wife, my best friend, gone just like that. I would have never imagined her doing this to me. She has taken my past, present and future away. She is the co-signer of my student loan that I need to finish my degree. So I don't think that's going to work out now. I've stopped crying for the most part, feel almost nothing now, numb I guess. I'm in therapy now and it's going okay. I asked her to join, but she refused. I started lifting weights again. I now have huge financial problems coming with no way to deal with it. Rent is one, her company pays for the villa until end of year. She will be great in 6 months' time, while I will be, I don't know. I have never cheated on her. Not even looked at another woman. She was all I needed. I don't have any family to speak of and I can count my friends on one hand. Any help, advice or thoughts are appreciated. Thanks for listening. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1, I know it doesn't seem like it now, but she's doing you a favor by stepping out of your life. It's gonna be okay. Every moment just has to be taken a step at a time. You'll find love again, you'll trust again, you'll breathe again. Situations like what she's gotten herself into never work out. Even if they last, they're usually unhappy and at first. Take care of you for now, and don't forget you're worth something. Don't ever think for a second someone else is better than you. Ask yourself, would you have had an affair with someone else's wife? I wish you the best. Redditor 2, she doesn't need someone to pay the bills anymore. This decision was taken a long time ago. This is exactly why I would never sacrifice my wellness for someone who could just kick me out the door once he no longer need me. Redditor 3, she has taken only what you allow her to take. Survive each day. Do not despair, as that will not serve you in any way. Take what help you are able to and strive to rebuild. Don't make the erroneous assumption your wife's life will turn out just fine. Poor choices are made in haste can lead to far-reaching consequences that are never considered. The following comes from another poster whose wife left abruptly. She went home for Christmas, decided not to come back. Divorce started less than a week later. A year into the process, she messaged me via FB, asking if a divorce is really what we wanted. I later found out she was in bed with a guy who had one kidney and was always at the hospital due to his health. He was only a friend at the time, of course, and also pregnant with his child, unbeknownst to me. Their firstborn has birth defects and outrageous health issues, which is not something I feel good about. It is a powerful lesson in why adultery when you're already married is bad, and that's objectively speaking as someone who's atheistic. I'm not about to raise a child that's not mine, and I've since learned this story I tell is more common than it should be. Op answer: thanks, yeah, I don't know if dating is even in the cards for me, haven't been on one in 19 years, except for my ex-wife, so I bet I'm a bit rusty to say the least. Thanks again for the reply. Redditor 4, I am so sorry for your loss. She told you who she was before you married her when she cheated the first time. It horrifies me to hear she told you to kill yourself, yet she is still the love of your life. I would suggest some self-exploration as to why you place what I would call a lower value on yourself. You sound like a loving, loyal, supportive partner who just needs to tune up his partner picker. Redditor 5, people reveal their true selves when they are angry or drunk, they say. Your wife, when angry and drunk, said she wished you would commit suicide. Op, listen carefully now. My advice is, never, ever, forget that moment. Your wife revealed her true self to you right there. Believe her. She is capable of treating you like this. Disengage, disengage, disengage. No more contact beyond what is necessary for finances. She is poison. The sooner you admit it, the sooner you will move on and heal from her damage. Google 180 method and infidelity. Let that be your guide going forward. Tell her nothing. Not how you feel, not what you'll do. The sooner you go and see, the better off you will be.